and welcome to the Dynamic Duel podcast, a weekly show where we review superhero films and debate the superiority between Marvel and DC by comparing their characters in stat-based battle simulations. I'm Marvelous Joe.
And I'm his twin brother, Johnny DC.
And in this episode, it's a duel episode, we're going to learn who would win in a fight between Lex Luthor and Baron Zemo. And how do we learn who would win? Well, we're going to use their stats to run 1,000 simulations using a probabilistic model known as the Monte Carlo method.
And of course, we're doing this match as a tie into our previous episode where we reviewed Superman Red Son. Lex Luthor played a huge role in that film, so we wanted to do a duel based off of him.
Yeah, one of these guys is an extreme badass, and the other guy is just a businessman in a suit, really, if you think about it.
A war suit.
Yeah, in this duel match, Lex Luthor will be wearing his war mech suit, but don't think that Baron Zemo is a pushover. We'll go all into these characters' histories later on in this episode.
You're going to have to convince me that Baron Zemo isn't a pushover, because I have no idea how he would even compete against Lex Luthor.
Excuse me, do you remember the year 2016 when Baron Zemo single-handedly broke up the Avengers in Captain America Civil War, whereas Lex Luthor in that same year just shoved a Jolly Rancher into a dude's mouth? Exactly.
I forgot about that.
We'll get into that main event later on this episode. Before that, we're going to go over the superhero movie news from this past week. We actually got the final trailer to the upcoming Black Widow film that's coming out in May.
And of course, New Mutants is being postponed indefinitely due to the coronavirus.
So good and bad news here.
As always, our segment times are in our episode description, so feel free to jump around to whatever segment you want to listen to.
We'd like to give a huge shout out to the people who reviewed us on iTunes over these past few weeks. That is very much appreciated. As always, guys, if this is your first time listening to the show, please don't forget to subscribe to us. And if you're already subscribed, please share this show if you can, because it goes a long way in helping Jonathan and I grow this show. With that out of the way,
quick to the No Prize. So No Prize is an award that Marvel used to give out up until the 90s to fans. Our version, the Dynamic Duel No Prize, is a digital award that we post on social media that I personally draw for those who we feel gave the best answer to our question of the week. Last week's question was, what is your most favorite live-action Batmobile and why?
And we asked that because we got our first look at the Batmobile that's going to be in Matt Reeves' The Batman movie that's coming out next year.
Our first honorable mention goes to Jacob Bell for his answer of Snyder's Batmobile.
Right, that was the Batmobile that Ben Affleck drove in BVS and in Justice League. And that was just a great concept car. It was big and bulky, like the Tumbler from the Dark Knight movies, but it was also pretty streamlined and sleek, like the previous Batmobiles. I really like that one. I think that one's my personal favorite, because I like the idea of Batman having a concept car as opposed to something that you can customize off the market.
Right. JP Lunai gave the answer of Arkham Knight for its military design and functionality, and I almost gave him the award, because technically I do think that the Arkham Knight design could be a live-action design. They would just have to 3D print it, because there's a 3D model of it that exists somewhere.
Yeah.
And I have nothing but good memories just launching out of that sucker in the Arkham Knight game.
Yeah.
It was so cool. It could go into tank mode. It's the best on-screen Batmobile in existence, period.
It's in a video game.
Right. That's the only drawback, is that it's not live action.
On the other side of the spectrum, Tim Brown gave the answer of the 66 Batmobile from the 1966 Batman TV show, saying that design was iconic and it looks actually drivable.
Well, it is, yeah.
And for nostalgia purposes, he was a big fan of the show and just really loves that car.
I could totally see myself just cruising down the road in that thing with the red stripes.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, that'd be awesome. Ken Johnson gave the answer of Batman Returns, specifically because of how the fairings split off and how it threaded the alley in the scene in Batman Returns when he's escaping the police.
Through that narrow alleyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, we mentioned that briefly in our review of Batman Returns.
Yeah, it was kind of a precursor to the Batpod.
Yeah, and how that split off from the main Batmobile.
Yeah, exactly.
Bo Bermudez gets honorable mention for his answer of the Batman 89 Batmobile with its turbine on the front end. He said it just looked badass and timeless.
And John Spees agreed with him. He chose Batman 89 as well.
And it's hard to argue with that. I think that design was used as a basis for what we saw in the cartoons and the comics for years to come. It's just an iconic design.
Not only do I love the whole front end of it, but just the bat-shaped wings on the back end.
Yeah.
And it just spits out that fire.
Yeah.
It's so great.
It's so great. Joel Seagrave said the Batman Forever Batmobile was his favorite. Was that the one with the light up front, or was that Batman and Robin?
They both had light up fronts.
Okay.
The Batman Forever had like a blue light up front, and Batman and Robin had sort of like a blue, yellow, pink kind of light up front.
Okay. Those car designs are not very good for stealth, I would say.
Right.
That being said, they look like a lot of fun.
I mean, I think I would drive it if they would solve like the shaky back fin problem that the Batman Forever car had. I didn't like that.
Made for some cool toys, though, for sure.
Heck yeah. Yeah. Calvin John Della Merced gave the answer of Batman 89. Because of its great design, it was elegant yet functional.
Okay, so he agreed with Bo and John, too.
Yeah. But the winners of this week's No Prize are Jeff Miles Jr. and Miggy Madangian for their response of The Tumbler from the Dark Knight movies. And I didn't think I was going to give them the award, honestly, because it's not my favorite design. But they won me over because basically they explained that it had the best gadgets.
True, with things like that missile launcher.
And it had some of the best moments, like the Batpod.
Yeah, when that thing ejected out from the main Batmobile and it like weaved its way underneath that semi-truck, like tying the wheels up in those cables, and they did this cool-ass kickflip off of a wall.
Yes.
That was just, it was so much more than anything else we've seen in these movies come from that Batmobile.
And like Miggy Madangian, I also appreciated the origin of the Batmobile. In Batman Begins, we got to see that Lucius Fox was the one who designed it. And we never got that in the other films. So I'm sort of able to appreciate it more, I think. So congrats to Jeff and Miggy for winning this week's No Prize. If you, the listener, want to win your own No Prize, stay tuned to later on in this episode when we'll ask another question of the week.
And now that that's done,
on to the news.
All right, with the spread of the coronavirus over these past few weeks, I'm sure a lot of people out there right now are self-quarantining in their home, listening to this podcast.
And what better way to spend a quarantine than by listening to our podcast,
right?
Specifically?
Yeah,
you know?
It's the best. You can listen to the whole thing during this time while you're stuck indoors. It's not entirely safe right now to be around a lot of people in a crowded movie theater. The studios know this, and so there's been a lot of flux with the release dates of upcoming movies within the next month or so.
Yeah, it started with the James Bond movie, No Time to Die. Then after that, there were a lot of studios who decided to follow suit, namely Disney.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense given the fact that not a lot of people want to be exposed to other people right now, but I'm not happy about it. It's not that I'm not happy with Disney. I'm just really pissed off at this stupid virus.
And the fact that it's New Mutants. I mean, this thing was supposed to come out like 2 years ago.
I almost feel like New Mutants is cursed to just never go to theaters. With all the delays that it's been through, it survived Disney's acquisition of Fox. They finally got a new release date. They started ramping up marketing for it. And then next thing you know, we're not going to see it. And worst of all, we don't know if or when we will be able to see it.
Right, because they haven't mentioned a new release date for it.
I can't imagine any release date this year that wouldn't impede on its box office earnings.
Well, what about Halloween?
Well, I mean, around Halloween is possible. I know that Eternals opens up a month later in November. So I guess if they are going to re-release this, Halloween would be a great time considering that New Mutants is a horror film. But that being said, given the fact that Disney paid little to no money on the production of this film, I don't think they have a lot to lose by putting this movie on Hulu or even Disney+.
Do you really think they would put it on Disney+, though?
I mean, the movie is rated PG-13, so it's hard to say. That being said, if they did release it on Disney+, I think they could attract a lot of viewers who otherwise would not be subscribed to that platform.
I think it's more likely that they'd put it on Hulu, honestly.
That's true. Disney now owns a majority share in Hulu, and so it's kind of their platform now on which they can release more mature Marvel content.
I mean, at least there's a place for it. If it doesn't come out in theaters, at least we'll still get to see it.
Hopefully. Like, my fear is that we won't be able to see it in any form, at least not anytime soon. And I was really looking forward to this movie coming out in a few weeks. I mean, it's long enough that we have to wait between release dates anyway, that when a release date gets moved, especially this close to its opening, it makes me feel like somebody canceled Christmas.
I mean, honestly, this isn't going to lead anywhere anyway, this franchise, right? So maybe don't release it, just scrap the whole thing and...
No!
Okay.
That's what the virus wants you to think. We're better than this. We can overcome. We can tell the virus to go fuck off because we're going to watch our movies whether it wants us to or not. Just, not with a bunch of other people around.
And really, this isn't the only film to be affected. Shang-Chi's production has been delayed for, 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And the same with Matt Reeves' Batman film.
And television shows such as CW's The Flash.
But not Black Widow.
No, Black Widow is still on schedule to be released May 1st, so we'll see if that happens. I mean, oh god, hopefully that does not get delayed, because I can't imagine anything worse. You know, within the realm of like inconsequential, selfish desires and stuff.
Right,
you know?
right.
Not anything that really matters. I really just can't wait for life to go back to normal. But we'll just have to bear it as well as we can. Hopefully everybody out there is staying healthy and safe, and we'll get through this together. Speaking of Black Widow, we got the Black Widow final trailer this past week, and it just looks amazing. There's a lot of new footage that came out, especially in regards to Taskmaster. This is the best look that we ever got of him.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, to me, it's definitely more easy to see the skull face on Taskmaster's mask in this trailer than in previous ones.
Oh, really? Yeah, he's just so cool looking. And the tricks that he had on display here, like we've seen him shoot a bow and arrow in the style of Hawkeye before. We've seen him throw Cap's shield. But in this one, we also saw him bust out claws from his fingertips in the same vein as Black Panther.
And a pretty sweet backflip kick.
Oh, yeah, when he like jumped up and then double kicked Red Guardian right in the chest and then like backflipped off of him.
Yeah.
That was so cool. Oh, my God. He's going to steal this movie. I swear. I can't wait to get into the Duel episode with him against Prometheus that we have lined up around the time of this movie's release.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite moments of the trailer actually was him watching Iron Man 2.
Oh, yeah. I guess he was looking at security cam footage that happened to be getting shots of Black Widow in the Iron Man 2 hallway fight.
Right.
But it was from the same angle as, you know, the cameras that filmed it for the movie.
Exactly.
That just goes to show that Taskmaster is definitely equipped with all of Natasha's moveset when he goes up to confront her.
Yeah, he's going to be really dangerous.
And according to this trailer, Taskmaster is the new leader of the Red Room.
And that surprised me, but it's also pretty fitting for his name.
Right, yeah, that's actually really true.
Has he ever been the leader of the Red Room in the comics?
No, he's always been like a mercenary and like fighting tutor for hire. He's never really had ties to Russia or its past. But I kind of love that story element here. And it was stated by Yelena Belova during like this kind of tender scene where she's sharing a drink with her sister Natasha. And she's telling her how like she would tell everybody how she's like a school teacher and she's married to a guy who renovates houses. And, you know, they're planning on moving, but they're waiting for interest rates to go down. And it's very touching. Natasha's like, that's not my story at all. I'm really looking forward to the family dynamics that Natasha has with Yelena and Alexei and Melina. They seem like a really tight family unit, which kind of makes me confused as to why Natasha would ever abandon them.
That's true. I didn't even think about that, but it does harken back to the previous trailer when she says that the Avengers weren't her first family.
Yeah, we'll probably learn why they split up, and I imagine it's not going to be anything good. It's going to be heartbreaking just seeing how close they are here in these trailers. I love the banter that Yelena and Natasha have later on when they're like trying to escape these motorcycle thugs in a chase scene. And she's like, what's your plan? She's like, my plan was driving away. And she's like, well, that plan sucks. And of course, at the dining table at the very end where Melina's like telling Natasha to sit up straight, otherwise she's going to develop a hunch. And Natasha's telling them all to calm down. And Yelena's like, why are you telling me? I didn't say anything. And then they all drink vodka. It's amazing.
I actually didn't really care for that end scene. Like, I thought they built up like a really cool like action spy thriller with the music. It was just great. And then they kind of, interjected the typical Marvel bathos.
There's nothing wrong with the joke. It was funny. It's a nice little bumper. But yeah, the end shot of Taskmaster flying through the air chasing after Natasha as everything's breaking apart around them looks epic as hell. I wonder if this is the climax of the movie because it just looks like you can't top this type of visual. That scene and the bridge scene that we keep returning to looks epic.
I like seeing like the army of Black Widows. Like that is intimidating.
Oh yeah, when they're like busting through the ceiling.
Right? Or when they're in the Red Room like training.
Yeah. I think I mentioned during the last trailer that I don't think we really need another trailer for this movie because everything that I'm seeing is absolutely convincing me to go see the film. This trailer is no exception. Of course, they did call this the final trailer, so we know that we're not going to get another one. But my anticipation for this film is just through the roof. And I don't know what I'm going to do with myself if the movie does not make its release date.
And that brings us to our question of the week. Will you be seeing Black Widow in theaters if it maintains its current release date? Why or why not?
Yeah, the coronavirus is expected to last for a while. Some people are saying, up to 3 months, which crosses into Black Widow's release date. So if that happens, we should at least by that point have plateaued with the number of new infections within the US. And it's possible that by the time May 1st comes around, people will start venturing outside again. That being said, it still might be risky at that time.
Especially for the worldwide box office.
Exactly.
And all the other people in the world,
Right. So we want to know if you guys will be making the journey out to theaters to see this movie, or if you're hoping or think it'll get delayed, or hoping that it'll get released digitally at least. Whatever your thoughts are, let us know by writing into us on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, or you can email us at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com. We'll pick our favorite answer and draw that person a Dynamic Duel No prize that we'll post to social media. But I think that does it for all the news for this episode. Let's go ahead and get into the main event, where we pit Lex Luthor against Baron Zemo and find out statistically which character has the better chance of winning in a fight.
Let's do it.
Alright, Lex Luthor versus Baron Zemo. As we mentioned before, we're doing this episode as a tie-in to our previous episode where we reviewed Superman Red Son. In that movie, Lex Luthor posed a formidable intellectual threat to Superman, as he's always done within the comic books. He's not Superman's intellectual rival, he's his intellectual superior, and probably one of the smartest guys within the DC universe.
He is the smartest guy on Earth in DC.
And you could definitely see that Baron Zemo is one of the smartest people on Earth in the Marvel universe. So this is a great battle of the brains.
And that's not to discount their brawn either, because both of these guys can pack a punch.
Yeah, in addition to being so smart, they are also credible physical threats against their enemies. So we have one of Superman's greatest foes versus one of Captain America's greatest foes, both of whom harbor a deep-seated hatred for their respective heroes. But despite holding a heavy grudge, both of these guys have an air of class to them. So it'll be a classy matchup.
Maybe. I don't know. Lex Luthor has been known to fight dirty, so we'll see.
Okay.
If you haven't listened to us before, the way we determine the winner of who would win in a fight between these two is statistics. We compile statistics for both characters based off of the Marvel Power Rankings, which is official and from which we extrapolate DC stats.
Right, and we add a few additional stats as well in order to create a more robust and accurate simulation.
Right, using the stats, we run 1,000 simulations in a probabilistic model known as a Monte Carlo simulation.
And what that simulation does is it randomizes their stat numbers along a normal distribution, which is a bell curve. So that bell curve accounts for all the variables that take place in battle. It accounts for powerful outlier feats that a character may have, as well as some of their weaker moments. But overall, their base stat appears most frequently as their average. We compare the numbers against each other in the simulation, and from there we get a percentage of wins for each character. The character with the higher percentage of wins is the one that we declare the winner.
Now, no one character ever wins 100% of the time. There's always a way for one character to defeat another. And that's what this simulation shows. It was a method used by the old TV show Deadliest Warrior that was on Spike TV, and it's often used for video game AI and business risk analysis. It's a model known for its accuracy.
So we don't consider fan votes. It's just this scientific method because Jonathan and I are both heavily biased, and we figured this was the most objective way to determine the answer of who would win. Now, before we run these simulations, Jonathan and I like to go over the histories and abilities of each character before conjecturing on how we think one of these 1,000 matches will play out beat for beat.
Now, I think it's your turn to go first with Baron Zemo's backstory.
All right, let's get into it. So, the lineage of the Zemo bloodline has dated back centuries in the Marvel timeline. A noble house of power-hungry, heartless men who would use their intellect and cunning to retain their stature in Europe. There have been two villains under the designation of Baron Zemo that have plagued Captain America both during World War II and in present times. The first Baron Zemo was named Heinrich Zemo, and the second was Helmut Zemo, his son. Heinrich was born in Germany in the early 20th century and grew up to become one of the Nazi Party's chief scientists, creating weapons such as the notorious Death Ray, a disintegration beam that Nazi generals like the Red Skull and Baron von Strucker's Hydra used to torment the Allied forces. Heinrich's nefarious operations were often stopped by Captain America, the other invaders, as well as Sergeant Nick Fury and his Howling Commandos. Heinrich's work left him hated all over the world, and he began wearing a purple cowl to hide his identity. During his creation of the indestructible Adhesive X, Captain America stormed Heinrich's lab and destroyed a vat of the formula's only sample. The powerful adhesive spilled onto Heinrich and permanently bonded his mask to his face, causing him to go insane with hatred for the Captain and swear vengeance on him. Near the end of the war, Heinrich launched an explosive drone to destroy London. Captain America and his sidekick Bucky Barnes jumped onto the drone in an effort to disarm it as it flew, but it exploded, apparently killing Bucky and throwing Cap into the icy English Channel waters, freezing him solid for decades. You can learn more about this in our Commander Steel vs. Captain America duel episode. Heinrich, it seemed, had won. The Nazi Party didn't, however, and Heinrich fled to a secret base he constructed in the South American jungle, where he created new weapons technology. He sired an heir to his lineage with his wife Hilda Zemo, and they named their son Helmut. Heinrich was often abusive toward the child, but Helmut grew up revering his father. When Heinrich read the news of Captain America's discovery by the Avengers and subsequent return, he grew mad with rage. He recruited fellow villains Radioactive Man, the Black Knight, Melter, the Enchantress, and Scourge the Executioner to form a team to rival the Avengers, calling themselves the Masters of Evil. They fought and initially overwhelmed the Avengers, though they eventually lost. This didn't stop Heinrich from creating whom he thought would be the Avengers' greatest foe, by bombarding Simon Williams with ionic energy and turning him into Wonder Man, whom we haven't done a duel with yet, but you can bet we'll get to him eventually, because Wonder Man is a great character and a prominent Avenger. Captain America pursued and eventually cornered Heinrich at his base, and in the battle caused Heinrich to blindly fire his ray gun into a nearby cliff that broke apart and killed Heinrich in the rock slide. Baron Zemo was dead, and Captain America, it seemed, had finally won. However, now he had to contend with a vendetta sworn by Helmut Zemo, who swore to avenge his father and kill Captain America. Helmut studied his father's research and used his own master intellect to recreate Adhesive X and the Death Ray. He first attacked Captain America under the moniker of the Phoenix, although during the battle, Helmut fell into a vat of boiling Adhesive X. His armor at the time protected him, but horribly scarred his face, causing him to don a mask similar to his father and take up the title of Baron Zemo. He trained in fencing and martial arts, becoming a powerful combatant, and developed more weapons tech such as mind control devices, energy blasters, and energy grenades. He reformed a new Masters of Evil that was more than twice the size of his father's, and commanded them in a masterfully executed attack to take out the Avengers one by one and take over the Avengers Mansion, though it was eventually reclaimed by an assembly of reserve and inactive Avengers members. When most of Earth's heroes were seemingly killed during Onslaught's attack on Earth, which you can learn more about in our Titans vs. X-Men episode, Helmut decided to reform the Masters of Evil, though this time he rebranded the new team as heroes, calling the group the Thunderbolts to gain the public's trust. The Fixer became Techno, Beetle became Mach 1, Screaming Mimi became Songbird, Goliath became Atlas, Moonstone became Meteorite, and Helmut himself discarded the Baron Zemo moniker and took on the guise of a hero named Citizen V. Helmut and the Thunderbolts were praised by the public and given access to technology and resources that he could use to finally take over the world. However, before Helmut could carry out his master plan, the other members of the Thunderbolts formed a mutiny, having grown to like living as heroes, and stopped him. Helmut retreated to his father's jungle base, but was beheaded by a brainwashed villain named Scourge. Helmut had a failsafe for death using his mind control tech, however, and his consciousness was uploaded into the systems of the Thunderbolts member known as Techno. Around this time, the Thunderbolts team was sent to Counter Earth, which was a planet resembling Earth on the other side of the sun, created by Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman's son Franklin Richards to save his family. On Counter Earth, Helmut's consciousness was uploaded into his Counter Earth counterpart's mind, and he along with the Thunderbolts became the planet's premier superhero team. Helmut learned that being hailed as a savior and celebrity brought about the same power and influence as a world conqueror. The team eventually found themselves back on regular Earth, and Helmut devised a plan to harness and drain exotic energies across the globe as a means to put an end to all superpowers. In the process, he acquired a powerful energy source known as the Moonstones from his fellow Thunderbolts teammate, and with them, he wielded energy on a massive scale. The Thunderbolts again turned on Zemo and fought alongside the Avengers against him. In the end, Songbird destroyed the Moonstones and sent Zemo back in time to the start of the Zemo lineage. He traveled through time, reliving events from each member of his bloodline.
He was immortal?
No, he kept jumping through time. He didn't witness their entire lives.
Okay.
Although Zemo does barely age due to his Compound X formula. When Helmut came back to the present, he found that Captain America was killed after the events of the Superhuman Civil War, which you can learn more about in our Justice League vs. Avengers duel match. Helmut turned his vendetta toward Bucky Barnes, aka the Winter Soldier, who had just become the new Captain America. He strapped Bucky onto a recreation of his father's old explosive drone and launched Bucky, though Bucky would end up surviving. However, Helmut's real plan was to expose the new Captain America as the former Winter Soldier, and Bucky ended up turning himself into authorities for his former crimes when he was brainwashed. When Sam Wilson, aka the Falcon, became the new Captain America during a time when Steve Rogers' super soldier serum was drained and he became an old man, Helmut set his sights on Sam. Helmut became the new leader of Hydra and hatched a plan that resulted in Sam apparently committing suicide. But Sam was rescued by his pet Falcon Redwing, and he stopped Helmut from detonating a chemical bomb that would cause humanity to become sterile. Recently, when reality was rewritten with a cosmic cube to turn Steve Rogers into a lifelong Hydra sleeper agent, Helmut was Hydra Cap's right-hand man, though he fell along with the rest of Hydra when Earth's heroes banded together to stop Hydra Cap and restore the real Steve Rogers. Baron Zemo's foremost ability is his brilliant tactical mind and inventive mind. With it, he's been able to create a host of effective weapons and formulas, including Compound X, which makes him stop aging. He also has a gun that can fire laser energy blasts and the Death Ray, which is a disintegration beam. He can also fire Adhesive X, which creates an unbreakable sticky bond. He has energy explosives and a biomodem device that can beam a signal that rewires electrical activity in the brain in order to control it, which is an update on his father's mind control rod. He also has nanotech fiber gauntlets, which give him like energy fists, and he has paralyzer discs. In addition to his tech, he is a master martial artist and swordsman, able to expertly wield his adamantium sword in battle. That's right, I said adamantium, which can cut through anything. And he has a dagger.
Is it also adamantium?
That I don't know, but I don't think it is. Though Baron Zemo hasn't had the Moonstones in years, most profiles still list him as having those abilities, so I'll include them in this fight. They give him control over gravitational forces and grant him limited time abilities such as clairvoyance, massive energy output, as well as the ability to create dimensional rifts in order to teleport.
Oh, they almost sound like lesser, like Infinity Stones.
Yeah, kind of. So what do you think? Way too powerful for Lex Luthor, right?
No way, dude. That just puts him on an even keel. Maybe. Actually, there were quite a few parallels that I found between Baron Zemo and Lex Luthor listening to Baron Zemo's bio.
Mm-hmm.
The whole, creating villains, there being multiple versions of the character, turning heroic for a time.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. But let me get into Lex Luthor's origin, who also, by the way, comes from a long lineage of intelligent figures. So Alexander Luthor, also known as Lex, was born and raised in Smallville, Kansas, to an abusive alcoholic father named Lionel Luthor. Lionel had been a scientist under the employment of the immortal villain Vandal Savage, but Savage mind-wiped his employees once they discovered the knowledge he sought. Broken and confused, Lionel often beat Lex and his sickly younger sister Lena. Lex found solace in reading books and studying, intellectually outpacing his teachers and every other adult in Smallville from a very early age. Because of his abuse and inability to find an intellectual peer, Lex was antisocial and looked down upon everyone with disdain, including Clark Kent, the one person in Smallville who attempted to understand Lex. In some versions of his origin, the young Clark Kent as Superboy saved Lex from a chemical fire in his laboratory by blowing it out, accidentally also blowing off Lex's burning hair. Lex, in his vanity, swore eternal revenge against Superboy for causing his baldness.
That's stupid.
Lex's ambitions eventually outgrew Smallville, and Lex orchestrated his father Lionel's death in a car accident to collect on a life insurance policy that Lex had recently forged in Lionel's name. Lex used the money to move to Metropolis, America's tech hub, where he rose through Suicide Slum to start a tech-based government contracting business known as LexCorp. He became the most powerful man in Metropolis, eventually buying 80% of the city's real estate, controlling all of its organized crime, and owning every media outlet save for the Daily Planet newspaper. Lex had become the smartest, richest man in the world, and a savior figure to the poorer citizens of Metropolis, whom he often helped and occasionally ran secret experiments on. If it wasn't for his hubris, Lex could have very well developed a solution for all of humanity's ailments. But once Superman showed up in Metropolis, Lex became obsessed with proving that he and humanity were not second-rate or beneath this godlike alien, who, to top things off, stole the girl of Lex's dreams, Lois Lane.
Oh, I didn't know he had a thing for her.
He did, yeah. After Lex was unable to bribe Superman into being his personal bodyguard, Lex was able to gain a sample of Superman's DNA and tried earnestly to develop a clone of the hero he could control, though Superman's Kryptonian DNA always resulted in unstable Bizarro clones. Lex was responsible for creating a number of Superman's villains, including Parasite and Metallo, the latter of which was powered with the only known sample of kryptonite, which Lex found during his time in Smallville. Lex would later use a portion of that kryptonite to fashion a ring, preventing Superman from getting anywhere near him without becoming sick and powerless. And of course, you can learn more about the effects of kryptonite in our Superman vs. Dr. Doom episode. Lex's kryptonite ring eventually proved his undoing, however, as its low radiation levels over time gave him cancer, forcing him to fake his own death rather than admit he poisoned himself. His brain was removed before his body was placed in a plane that crashed in the Andes Mountains, and a new, younger cloned body developed around the brain. He re-emerged on the Metropolis scene as Alexander Luthor II, Lex's illegitimate son raised abroad with long, red-flowing locks and a beard, the heir to LexCorp. His cloned body began to deteriorate, however, aging rapidly and becoming immobile. As full paralysis developed, Lois Lane uncovered the truth about his faked death and past crimes. Now a prisoner in his own body, and with nothing left to lose, Lex initiated a doomsday plan to destroy Metropolis, resulting in the deaths of thousands. Lex was imprisoned, old, immobile, and decaying, until the demon Neuron came to him and offered him a new body in exchange for his soul. Since Lex didn't believe in souls, he agreed. With his new body, Lex re-emerged on the scene, claiming that he had been kidnapped and replaced with a clone responsible for any and all past crimes. Lex regrew favor with the public after assisting the Justice League in reigniting the sun during the Final Night storyline, and helping rebuild Gotham City after the events of No Man's Land, which you can learn about in our Batman vs. Moon Knight episode. There wasn't a single American whose life hadn't been improved by technology developed by LexCorp, and to that end, Lex ran a successful election to become President of the United States. Using government surveillance resources at his disposal, Lex was able to determine that Superman was Clark Kent, a revelation he had difficulty coming to terms with, and capable of reasoning why a godlike being would pretend to be a lowly, humble figure. Superman's identity would eventually be erased from Lex's mind by Manchester Black, the telepathic leader of Lex's government-sanctioned team Task Force X, aka the Suicide Squad. When a massive kryptonite meteor was discovered heading for Earth, Lex blamed Superman and put a bounty on his head that nearly every villain tried to collect. Tired of Lex's abuse of power, Superman and Batman confronted Lex in the White House, to which Lex responded by injecting himself with a kryptonite-based venom steroid based off the villain Bane's formula, and donning a battlesuit made of apocalyptic technology. Lex was defeated in battle, however, and abandoned his role as president in disgrace. During the events of Infinite Crisis, Lex's analog from the Earth 3 dimension, Alexander Luthor Jr., tried to recreate the multiverse after it was destroyed during the Crisis on Infinite Earths. Posing as Lex, Alexander created a secret society of supervillains, taking on all of Earth's heroes. When Alexander's plans ultimately failed, Lex tracked him down and killed him, allowing Lex to once again blame all past crimes on his doppelganger. After losing his company to Lois Lane's and Clark Kent's exposés, however, Lex lashed out and attacked Metropolis using a Kryptonian ship. With Lex defeated and imprisoned, Lois Lane's father, General Sam Lane, ordered Lex to serve out his sentence under his watch, deciphering information stored within the depowered remnants of the villain Brainiac. Luthor was able to successfully reactivate the alien supercomputer, and together, he and Brainiac helped destroy the newly regrown Kryptonians from Brainiac's formerly shrunken city of Kandor by turning our yellow sun red. Lex escaped his imprisonment and later became the wielder of the Orange Lantern Ring during the Blackest Night storyline, when he helped protect the universe from being taken over by zombified Black Lanterns. You can learn more about that in our Green Lantern vs. Nova episode. When his ring was taken back, Lex sought to find the power source behind the Black Lanterns, which resulted in him opening portals to the Phantom Zone, unleashing a powerful empathic being known as the Zone Child. Lex merged with the being, transforming him into a cosmic, all-powerful entity who tried to torment Superman by making him feel human emotion, which Lex had assumed he merely faked as an alien. In that moment, Lex was shocked to learn that not only was Superman Clark Kent, but also that his emotions and intentions were genuine. In comparing the loss Superman suffered at the death of his father Jonathan Kent to the hatred Lex felt upon killing his father Lionel, Lex's hatred of Superman reached a new level and caused him to lose control of the Zone Child and resulted in him getting trapped in the Phantom Zone forever, just before the Flashpoint event reset the timeline. Post-Flashpoint, Lex helped defeat the evil counterparts of the Justice League from Earth 3, resulting in him taking an interest in superheroics and joining the Justice League. When the New 52 Superman died, Lex Luthor took up his mantle, donning the red cape and S insignia until the pre-Flashpoint Superman emerged in the new timeline. Lex has since abandoned heroism and drafted a new Legion of Doom, after he learned of universe-controlling energies that emerged when the Source Wall broke during the events of the Dark Knight's Metal event. Recently, Lex committed suicide, but was reborn as a human-slash-Martian hybrid of omnipotent power known as Apex Lex. In this form, he was able to easily destroy the Justice League single-handedly. But that's not the version I'll be using in this battle. Lex's only real ability is his advanced intellect and expertise in several forms of martial arts. He has mastered all the known sciences and even discovered a few of his own. He's unparalleled strategically in politics and business, and he has engineered technology centuries ahead of its time, including a war suit he often uses to go toe-to-toe with beings like Superman. His war suit's gadgets have differed over time, but most of them have granted Lex superhuman strength and durability.
How strong?
Strong enough to inflict pain on Superman with a punch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. His warsuit is also often equipped with an arsenal of kryptonite-laced explosives and blades, and occasionally grants him energy manipulation in the form of laser blasts, force fields, energy-bladed weapons, and tractor beams. With the suit, he could also fly and interface with technology, including LexCorp satellites that feed him information and allow him to travel via teleportation beam or control sentry drones.
I found another parallel between the two. Lex started the Legion of Doom, whereas Baron Zemo started the Masters of Evil.
Right, and Lex has actually formed multiple teams. There's the Legion of Doom, there's the Injustice Gang, there's the Secret Society of Supervillains, but they're all essentially Masters of Evil.
They wish, honestly.
I think they're better.
Actually, that would be a great matchup down the line, Masters of Evil versus the Legion of Doom.
Yeah, that would be cool.
But I'm not too impressed by that power set.
What?
I am a little bit nervous about the whole strength thing, but I think Baron Zemo has got this one handled. Now that we've gone into the histories and abilities of these two characters, Jonathan and I are going to improvise a speculative scenario on how we see this match going before we run the actual simulations. Now, we don't set any rules for this particular speculation, but we do say that the characters start about 50 yards apart from each other in an environment that plays no bearing on the battle itself, because we don't take stats for the environment. And some characters have advantages in certain environments over others, so we just say that doesn't play a factor here, and the characters have to win on their own merits. The other rule that we state is that Lex Luthor and Baron Zemo don't know anything about each other starting off the match, other than that the other one is a threat that needs to be taken care of.
So the characters start off 50 yards apart. Who goes first?
These are both very analytical men, so I'm not sure who would go first. I think Zemo is too arrogant to kind of escalate the battle by pulling out the Moonstones right away.
He doesn't know that he needs to go that far yet.
Right, exactly. So I think he'll start off by just pulling out his pistol.
Well, Lex Luthor starts off by ejecting a few sentry drones, and they just start firing lasers at Zemo.
Well, Zemo pulls out his pistol, his death ray, and he starts shooting these drones out of the sky and disintegrating them. Then he turns his gun toward Lex, and he disintegrates his whole fucking suit.
Except that it doesn't, because the death ray hits Lex Luthor's force field. Lex knew what energy frequency to put up thanks to the readings his sentry drones got when Zemo shot them down with his death ray.
Oh, very smart. Very smart.
Yes. So basically your death ray is useless for the rest of this match.
Well, this just pisses Baron Zemo off. So he unsheaths his sword and lunges forward incredibly fast.
And then gets fired backwards by a missile straight to the torso.
Baron Zemo sidesteps the missile at the last moment and cuts it right in half using his adamantium sword.
Okay, but as Zemo gets close with his sword, that's when Lex Luthor like protracts this long energy blade from his gauntlet, and he swings it at Baron Zemo.
Baron Zemo blocks that energy blade with his adamantium sword, and he reaches and pulls out these paralyzer discs, which he expertly throws at Lex Luthor's energy blade arm, which paralyzes it and gives Baron Zemo ample opportunity to slice off the mech's hand at the wrist, so that Lex is no longer able to use that energy blade.
These paralyzer discs will work against Lex Luthor's mech suit?
Well, they disrupt electrical signals, so I'm gonna say yeah.
Okay, but Lex Luthor is ejecting parts of his suit all the time when he's going toe-to-toe with superheroes. So he just ejects like whatever part of the wrist was left, and then now he has a big-ass laser arm cannon that he just blasts straight into Baron Zemo.
Oh, like Mega Man?
Yeah, or Samus, exactly.
Alright, so Baron Zemo gets blasted backwards. The Moonstones give him granted durability against energy blasts, so he's fine, but wounded. At this point, he's not fucking around, so he uses the stones to kind of like open up this dimensional portal in the ground beneath him that he like falls into, and he teleports behind Lex Luthor and delivers like this powerful like flying uppercut using his nanotech fiber gauntlets, his energy fists, that smashes Lex Luthor's like back console and knocks his dumb mech suit face down onto the ground. And while Lex is face down on the ground with his mech suit, that's when Baron Zemo pulls out his Adhesive X gun. And shoots a glob underneath Lex Luthor's like torso section, sticking his mech suit permanently to the ground. Lex like tries to get up doing like a push-up, and he just can't. He's like stuck.
Okay, but I mean, Lex has had multiple war suits. Some of them have been really bulky, like a mech suit, and some of them have been more like a costume of sorts. Okay. So from like Hulkbuster to like regular size Iron Man, right?
Okay.
So once he realizes that he can't get up, he ejects out of the bulky mech suit in this like sleeker armor. And the suit also ejects like this small staff that Lex Luthor catches, and it expands into this full energy battle axe.
Oh, like a lightsaber?
Yeah, well, yeah, the blade is energy. And he just swings it at Baron Zemo.
Well, Baron Zemo uses the Moonstones to stop Lex Luthor mid-swing and just blasts him backward away from him.
Okay, but as Lex Luthor is flying backwards, that's when his jet boots kick in, and now he's hovering midair. At which point he pulls out his own laser pistol and starts firing at Baron Zemo.
Alright, so Baron Zemo just starts running and starts dodging these energy blasts.
Okay, well then Lex Luthor changes the setting from laser to tractor beam. And he just grabs Baron Zemo and just yanks him towards him. And as Baron Zemo is coming towards him, that's when Lex Luthor pulls out his spiked kryptonite knuckle dusters and just wallops Baron Zemo now that he's close.
Alright, so Baron Zemo just got banged up hard by that punch, but he slaps this device, this explosive energy grenade, onto Lex's suit, and then Zemo uses the Moonstones to increase the gravitational pull of Lex Luthor to the ground, so Lex Luthor just falls to the ground while Baron Zemo kicks off of him and flips to safety.
Okay, but Lex is really good with technology. Okay? And his suit could interface with it. So the bomb never goes off.
Okay. And while Lex is busy like disarming this bomb that's strapped to him, that's when Zemo rushes over to him while he's on the ground and holds the adamantium sword right in front of his face, gloating that he has the final victory, right before he chops his head off.
Okay, but just as Baron Zemo is about to cut off his head, Lex activates his teleporter and he teleports out of the way. But as a contingency for when he needed to do this, in his place, he puts a nuclear bomb, which detonates just as Zemo is about to slice into it.
Oh, a little bait and switch there, huh?
Yep, exactly.
Alright, so Zemo probably dies at that point.
I think that's fair.
Little did you know that Zemo used the Moonstone's precognition to foresee that something like this was going to happen. So when he strapped that supposed bomb onto Lex Luthor's armor, it was actually a biomodem device. So in a manner similar to how Helmet survived death in the comics, his consciousness gets signaled into the biomodem device, and from there his consciousness takes over Lex Luthor's armor.
Right, so Zemo's dead, but now in control of Lex's armor?
Correct.
That sounds very complicated.
It is, if you're Lex Luthor. But now that Zemo has control of the armor, he makes Lex fly up into the air and then ejects him out into the stratosphere.
Okay, but little did you know that when Lex gets ejected from his suit, he also set in a self-destruct sequence for the suit so no one else would get it. So Zemo dies in the explosion of the suit that he's in. And Lex parachutes down to safety.
No, he doesn't. I say that Zemo recognized that the suit was going to explode and prevented Lex from ejecting after all.
So he kills both of them.
Yeah, so they both die in a draw, maybe.
Okay.
Either way, this conjecture is over. Let's go ahead and find out which character survived this meetup by running the simulations. All right, we ran the stats and found out who would win in a fight between these two geniuses, and the results are interesting. First off, just gotta say that Lex Luthor in his mech suit has better physicals than Baron Zemo. You know, he's stronger, he's faster, he has greater durability, but with the Moonstones, Baron Zemo has other advantages such as energy projection and strategic intelligence.
Yeah, that one surprised me the most, I think, because Lex Luthor is such a being of intelligence in DC. But what we really define strategic intelligence as in our simulations is the ability to process an attack plan and adapt during battle.
And precognition lets you do that really well, which Baron Zemo has through the Moonstones.
Right. Zemo is also a much better fighter than Lex Luthor. Zemo could go toe-to-toe with Captain America, whereas Lex Luthor can't do the same thing with Batman or even someone like Mercy, his bodyguard. When it came to damage level and range, they were both about even.
Yeah, they both have a ton of tricks up their sleeves, ranging from something as simple as a punch to attacks that can destroy almost entire cities. So it's kind of hard to tell right off the bat just by looking at the stats who's going to come out on top of this. Now, what is your prediction, Jonathan?
Well, in the poll that we ran on Instagram, 77% of our followers said that Lex Luthor would win.
But then again, what do those people know, right?
A lot. They're awesome. They follow us. They must be pretty smart. That said, I do think that's a little high. I think before learning about Baron Zemo, I thought it probably would have been closer to 70. Honestly, it's probably closer to like 60. But I still think Lex Luthor takes this.
Well, let's find out. The winner between the Lex Luthor-Baron Zemo fight is Lex Luthor.
Yes!
Who won 571 matches out of the 1,000 simulations we ran.
Oh, it wasn't too far off then.
Baron Zemo won 429.
What a loser.
In the end, despite all of Baron Zemo's gadgets and weaponry, he couldn't hold up to the awesome might of Lex Luthor's mech suits and their weapons, given that he's able to go toe-to-toe with Superman when he wears it. So that played a huge factor, and in the end, Baron Zemo's stats just couldn't compete. But I will say that if we had a stat for style for these matchups, Baron Zemo would just totally annihilate Lex Luthor.
For style?
Lex Luthor is just this bald dude. Baron Zemo has this badass mask with like this cool headgear, and he has like this black jacket that coordinates black with purple. It's just awesome looking.
Baron Zemo's style makes him look like he's a Muppet.
What? Why?
Or like Mushmouth. It's like, what is the mask exactly? Is that like corduroy? I don't get it.
It's like stripy. I don't know what it's made of.
It's not stylish, that's what it is.
I have to say, the way they're adapting it for the Falcon Winter Soldier television show, the mask looks pretty damn sweet, I think. I can't wait to see that in
looks
live
like
action.
A ski mask.
Kind of, but cooler, you know?
All right.
But anyway, that does it for this matchup, guys. Again, Lex Luthor beats Baron Zemo 57.1% of the time. Let us know what you thought about this matchup by writing into us on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, or you can email us at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com.
In our next episode, we will be reviewing Superman Returns, the 2006 film starring Brandon Routh as Superman and Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor. And of course, that will be a tie-in to this episode with Lex Luthor.
I haven't watched that movie in probably over a decade, so I'm really interested in revisiting it and seeing how it holds up, especially considering that it's been followed by Henry Cavill's Man of Steel. So check us out next week, and in the meantime, guys, please share us, rate us, or review us if you can. And also visit us on our website at dynamicduel.com, where you can get links to bonus content that we offer to our patrons, as well as a merchandise store where we sell cool artwork that Jonathan draws that we feature on the No Prizes.
Yeah, and the artwork is featured on t-shirts and mugs and cell phone cases and stickers and magnets, a whole bunch of cool things.
Yeah, all the cool things that geeks want.
This week I'll be drawing Baron Zemo, so if you're a big fan of him, definitely check out the store.
Remember, guys, you can see all of Jonathan's artwork if you follow us on Instagram, and actually all the platforms, so check it out.
But Instagram is the best.
Right. Special thanks to our executive producers, John Spees and Bodo Winter, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Up, and away.
True believers.